Hello and welcome everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the HPNet webinar today. This is the Hydro Empowerment Network, and I realize some of you are just coming into the room right now, so welcome everybody. Hydro Empowerment Network's webinar, and this is on mini-grid reliability, the role of training centers for micro and mini hydropower. And this is the first of their 2019 webinar series, so we'd really like to welcome you to this and thank you for your enthusiastic response to it. And this is part of a series, so if we can advance to the next slide. This is a part of the series for 2019. The next webinar will actually be in June on mini-grid sustainability, transitioning to enterprise-based micro hydropower. The third one will be this autumn on mini-grid financing, especially the role of local banks. And webinar 4 will be in December 2019. And that will be on mini-grid planning, data mapping tools for multi-actors. But for today, we're going to focus on mini-grid reliability and the role of training centers for micro and mini hydropower. And we have some excellent speakers for you today. I'm going to be joined by Mr. Lance Habla of HPNet, Ms. Jade Angalau, who's of the Skat Center for Renewable Energy, and as well Mr. Gerhard Fisher, who is based in Indonesia at the ASEAN Hydropower Competence Center. So we'd like to thank especially the partners of this HPNet webinar, including Visions. Visions, you can learn more about them at visions.net. And thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry, I was just correcting a small audio problem there on my end. So visions.net, and Visions promotes the transition to sustainable energy systems in the global south. Its mission is to empower individuals and communities to transform the production and use of energy so that it effectively enables sustainable development. So thank you, Visions, for your generous support of the webinar today. And in addition to Visions, we have Energypedia as a partner. And Energypedia is a nonprofit organization that runs and maintains the wiki-based platform energypedia.info. So please go to their website if you'd like more information. It's an online platform for collaborative knowledge exchange on renewable energy, energy efficiency, and energy access in the context of development cooperation. So thank you to both of those generous partners for supporting today's HPNet webinar on training centers. So I think what I'd like to do first is go to Lance Habla, who works for HPNet. Hi, Lance, are you there?
Oh, hello, Miss Molly.
Hello. Yes. Hi. How are you?
Yes, doing fine. So thank you very much for the introduction. Is my audio clear?
Yes, your audio is clear, and you're welcome to begin your presentation.
Okay. Yeah. So hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar. So before we go to our speakers who will share about their local centers in depth, I would just like to provide a brief background on HPNet and our work with micro hydropower. So just to make sure that we are all on the same page, and as well for the benefit of those in the audience who are new to the subject or the sector. So here we have an illustration of a typical micro hydropower system. So the way micro hydropower systems work, like most common energy generation technologies, is to use a turbine to run a generator. So with MHP, we divert a portion of the flow of a river or a stream and then convey it to a turbine at a lower elevation. So the power that can be generated is then proportional to the flow and the elevation between the turbine and the intake. So MHP systems can also be either standalone or grid connected, and it can power a wide variety of appliances and potential end uses. And another important thing to note is that an important component in micro hydropower systems, which is also overlooked sometimes, is the watershed. So without water, we wouldn't have the capacity to generate the electricity. So micro hydropower is proven, and it is very well past the development stage. It can deliver cheap, stable, and reliable energy 24 hours a day, yet there remains much opportunity for improvement. And fortunately, micro hydropower professionals and practitioners globally are very active in developing the solutions and innovations to address these challenges. So HPNet's mission is really to accelerate and advance these innovations, be they technologies or in the form of policies, which are all geared towards sustainable development of rural communities. And we do this by performing these three interrelated roles. So first is the knowledge exchange. We design activities, events that make sure the right people get the right information. So this would entail network gatherings, workshops and trainings, and e-discussions like this webinar. So a good example would be our work with open source technologies, which is also supported by Visions. And more about that can be found in our website. So similarly with strategic advocacy, we provide a platform and the tools needed for multi-stakeholders to voice their concerns or share their knowledge. And thirdly, we collaborate with partners to identify important thematic focus areas that are relevant to the times. So this is all centered around the idea that the well-documented and proven idea that renewable energy, particularly micro hydropower, can be a catalyst for an all-inclusive development that addresses cross-cutting issues such as poverty, environmental sustainability, social and gender inclusivity, among others. So international groups have recognized this as early as in the 1990s. Like groups like ITDG and Skat supported and provided regional and in-country trainings on micro hydropower. And these trainings were very frequent and comprehensive in the sense that substantial practical hands-on activities were done in the field. The trainings were also done in multiple phases, and this resulted in building a great pool of local technical talent. So here we have a picture of one of our speakers, Senator Lasimbang, as well as an expert in Indonesia, Mr. Kus Raharjo. So it is also worth noting that behind these events were international experts like Mr. Adam Harvey, who displayed sustained commitment to cultivating local experts, as well as the trainees themselves who committed to continuously build on the knowledge they gained. So, for example, we have Senator Lasimbang, and to his left is Engineer Nazario Kakayan, who is based in Philippines and who has worked with Yamog Renewable Energy Incorporated in Mindanao with community-based renewable energy systems for over 20 years. So these are just some of the organizations who made it all possible. We have ITDG, we have Skat, HydroNet, and of course, it's important to note their local counterparts. So AEPC in Nepal, AKRSP in Pakistan, and others. So fast forward decades later, these kinds of trainings are very rare, but thankfully they were able to spur a period of technical advancement that really led to the formation of the centers that we have featured today, among others, as well as the dynamic people who manage them. So we have Create Sibat in the Philippines. We have Tony Bong Create in Malaysia, and of course HYCOM in Indonesia. And To end this introduction, I would just like to leave a short message, that this is why we at HPNet always push for knowledge exchange and trainings. So, the impacts of 2 or 3 week trainings may not be immediately visible right after the activity, but if they are implemented properly and with sustained mentoring, they will be evident several times over in the work of numerous others who were able to gain the knowledge they needed and the inspiration in that activity. So thank you, and I'm turning it over to Miss Molly.
Thank you so much, Lance. Thank you for that fascinating history to kind of get the whole audience up to speed on the fact that this has been going on for a long time. This is not something new and it's not something that happened overnight, but there's a real history there. So thank you. So what I'd like
Yes.
to do next is to go directly to our next speaker. So Jade, I'm just going to send you through a request to share your screen. And as the audience can see, that's Jade Angalau at CBAT. So she's going to be our next speaker. So I'll just send that through to you. And while I'm doing that, I just want to remind the audience also to please send in your questions during the webinar. We'd really like to hear from you, and we'd like to know what questions you have as we go through each of the speakers. So, hi Jade, are you there on the line? Let me unmute you. Sorry, you're muted from my end. Hi Jade. How are you?
Hello, Molly. I'm ready.
Hello. Oh, great, great. So it's just, your screen is just coming up. Okay, I see it's full screen here. So I can see your notes. So you might want to just click on the full screen button, and like that, the audience will be able to see your slideshow. Perfect. So thank you so much for being here with us, Jade. I know you're going to talk to us about Createch and what you guys are doing in the Philippines to help enable sustainable energy access for the rural poor. So we're very much interested in hearing about what you guys have been doing there in the Philippines and sharing that with the audience. So I will invite you now to please begin your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Molly. Thank you very much for inviting Sibat for this webinar. Good evening, everyone. To start with, I will introduce to you a brief history of the Center for RE and Appropriate Technology so that you have a better idea about the center. Createch is a facility to enable sustainable energy access to the Philippines rural poor. The center situated at Mangarita Organic Farm, a center for sustainable agriculture established on 2006 by CBAT. Createch was established by CBAT on 2014 as the Technology and Skills Development Hub for CBRES. The two centers situated in Capas, Tarlac, 2 to 3 hours drive from Manila. So the vision of Createch to enable sustainable energy access to poor rural communities in the Philippines. In the Philippines, there are about 30% rural households without access to sustainable energy in the off-grid barangays, and where there is grid extension that is not able to reach target barangays, villages, and households. Molly, hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yes. Are you having trouble moving to the next slide?
Yes, exactly.
Normally, if you can use the cursor keys on your keyboard, it should allow you to go forward.
Yes, I go forward. I use it already, but I think there's a problem with this. What happened?
But it's okay. If you're not able to resolve it, what I'll do, I'll run them from my computer. It's not a problem. Shall we
So
do
go
that?
ahead. Yes, of course.
Okay, okay. So audience, if you just bear with me for 1 second, I'm just going to switch over to my my other computer and run the slides from there. So just take 1 second here. Okay. Okay, let me just make that full screen. And there's a tiny delay sometimes on my end. So Jade, they're almost up there. Let me go ahead and put that as full. Run those for you, and should be fine. Okay. So Jade, let me just move forward in your slides a little bit. And okay, so I'm on the slide now. Objectives of Createch. Is that
Yes,
good?
thank you, Miss Molly. Thank you. Yes.
No problem.
Okay. The objectives of Createch is to promote an advanced community-based RE system, CBRES, in the Philippines. Next. Its specific objectives are: 1, to provide knowledge on CBRES through training of community members; 2, to provide information and advisory to communities in response to their requests for sustainable energy; 3rd, to assist CBAT's field team in installing the system; 4th, provide technical monitoring to systems and address the concerns as required; and lastly, to conduct research and innovation on small equipment to improve efficiency of systems. Next slide, please. Createch facility. So inside the Createch machine center, we have lathe machine, drilling and milling machine, welding machine, ELC manufacturing unit, a training room for research and development, a small library, and small office to accommodate client and serve as a meeting place of the program, and various other tools, and also a productive and efficient machine. We also conduct trainings such as fabrication and troubleshooting training to local technicians, micro hydro turbines, and electronic load controllers. We do also operation and maintenance training to village level operators, basic theory of micro hydropower system and practicum, preventive maintenance on site and actual operation of the system, and training and retraining during repairs and upgrading. Next, organizational and financial training to village level project managers. These are being given during and upon commissioning of the system. Facilitation of policy formulation, organizational development, and bookkeeping. Orientation and awareness training to local government units. CBRES concept and design for communities, roles of LGUs to assist CBRES development. Okay? So we do also institutional training. Two exchange type of organizational and finance trainings were held since 2015. CBRES representatives were gathered to share and exchange about their organizational experiences and problems. Among them were CBRES with more advanced experiences and provided the leading insights to improve on organizational methods. So about 16 CBRES organizations had attended this exchange type of training. So we have here the photo with the participants and together with the technical staff of CBRES. Next. We conducted also a micro hydro operators training. 4 exchange type of operator trainings were held since 2015. Operators were gathered to exchange about their O&M experiences and problems and were given the needed input. About 70 operators attended the exchange type of trainings for CBRES projects. Other partners in institutions wishing to adopt CBRES brought their partner communities to the center to acquire theoretical and practical training. We have the photos taken during the on-site practicum together with CBAT technical people and also the CBRES partners organization. Next. Impact of creative training and research and innovation. Okay. It reduces MHP downtime and dependence. Second, improve management and organizational capacity, increase efficiency of system performance, accelerate deployment of MHP systems. Create a multi-stakeholder approach to knowledge exchange. So Createc manufactures efficient agricultural equipment that are appropriate to the conditions of small upland communities and that are not available in the market. Createc hosts foreign volunteers annually to help in the more advanced aspects of the work, such as wind system, and in the more complicated aspect of micro-hydropower development. Createc hosts local students on-the-job trainings to prepare them for engineering careers, giving importance on CBRES development. Createc conducts meetings with LGUs to capacitate the government from barangay, municipal, up to national levels, by way of pursuing CBRES advocacy to help us fund the ongoing rehab and upgrading activities of the center. These are the photos taken during the on-site practicum and during the orientation of the community-based renewable energy system, together with the technical staff of CBAT and also the volunteer of CBAT and also the community. Thus, Createc serves a facilitative and catalyzing role in pursuing CBRES development. Thank you. If you need more information, please visit CBAT website or cbat-e.org. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Molly.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Jade. Thank you very much. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that was a real pleasure to also to see all of those photos. I know that's one of the most nice things to see is because so much of the training and the capacity building is really about people. So thank you for those lovely photos of everyone. So let me move to our next speaker. So what I'm going to do is, as mentioned, our next speaker is Mr. Gerhard Fischer. We are joined by our third speaker who had some technical difficulties, and he will come in just after Mr. Fischer speaks. So that will be Adrian Bani Lassenbang. But next up, we will go to Gerhard. Hi, Gerhard. Are you there on the line?
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me? Yes.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay.
Just that you
And
share your screen.
ready show my screen now, yeah? Okay. Just let me try to move the screen here. Now, cannot remove that thing here. In the way now, yeah. Okay. So.
And if you just go to your opening slide, to your cover slide,
I think
that way.
can you see it? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's on your. I think it's on your third slide. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So
now,
thank you. Yeah, I can see it very well.
Okay, so yes, so good evening, everybody, and of course, thanks for inviting me as well. Far from Bandung, we are scattered all over the world. That's very amazing. Yeah. I want to speak about HYCOM and maybe technology transfer in the last, say, almost 20 years in Indonesia. And so maybe first, if no, does it work now? Huh? What's that now?
So you should be able to advance your slides with your cursor.
Yeah, yeah, okay, now I have it, yeah. Okay, HYCOM is, we call it ASEAN Hydropower Competence Center, is also giving training, and one big part is experience exchange and networking, and possibly also developing and research a bit for the small hydropower sector. HYCOM was established in about 2011 after quite some time of constructing it, yeah. And basically, it's based on the hydro laboratory equipment from University for Technik in Zurich, Switzerland. They somehow stopped the equipment and offered us to bring it to Bandung, Indonesia. And we were supported from Swiss government, from REPIC. Yeah, it's like a renewable energy platform for the shipping costs. And we had a private-public partnership with ASEAN Center of Energy and GIZ, the German international corporation, funding some construction costs. Then we worked together with TEDC, the Technical Education and Development Center for vocational school training, also called long name Indonesian, yeah? And they provided the land on their compound and also support the administration. And NTEC AG and PT NTEC is basically a Swiss company, and we are the Indonesian daughter company. We did the design, implementation, and construction of this thing. So after installation, GIZ somehow supported an integrated expert to establish HYCOM for 3 years, which was myself. So that how the HYCOM was established. And now HYCOM is operated as a private-public partnership based on a MOU. We have a consortium, which is TEDC. It's a government institution to train vocational teachers and to make a curriculum for this training. It's in Bandung, and PT NTEC Indonesia. We are a local company in Indonesia. We jointly operate this HYCOM. We have also target groups, funny name, huh? But potential customers, of course, are public and private sector actors, educational institution active in hydropower development. So we think on equipment manufacturers, suppliers and consultants, lecturers of university, vocational schools and other educational institutions. We have a mini hydropower association here and in other countries as well. We train operators and managers of hydropower plants. Also regional and national hydropower support programs, which are now in Indonesia not really focusing on hydropower anymore, but other renewable energies. Of course, political decision makers, representatives of the government departments, we are training, and potential investors, financiers, also important banks know about hydropower technology. So I think that is quite a lot of possibilities to do something. One very good news, fulfilling some kind of a dream, is that in last year, HYCOM was upgraded to a renewable energy center covering wind energy, hydro, of course, solar and bioenergy, and also waste management like plastic waste management and organic waste, and became some kind of a certification body for the Indonesian government and vocational school level. It's called TUGTEC, and it's on the compound of HYCOM, which was extended, and so a lot of possibilities. Coming to, let me say, products and services, we call it. We have somehow conducting some more standard and trainings and also tailor-made according to the request of the customers. We can develop core competencies and qualification of teachers and trainers, as the ETC is training teachers and making curriculum for vocational school education in Indonesia. This is a good place. In the ETC, there are also other capacities like civil engineering, electronic, mechanical production. So there is quite a big compound and can be synergized with our center. Also, as we said, technician can be trained, operators, also supervisors for building hydropower plants, designers. And of course, one part is defining standards and quality assurance, accreditation and measurement to promote greater quality and efficiency in the hydropower sector. So maybe the question may be, how does it come to build it in Bandung? Yeah, one thing was the random that we got this equipment and I was working in Bandung, so it came here. But the other reason is in Bandung in maybe beginning 1991, the hydropower developing started, and maybe up to now, maybe 350 people working in Bandung and outside now as well, and accumulated over these 20 years quite a lot of know-how in the sector and covering all the aspects. And coming to this long-term support of technology transfer to Indonesia, which was mainly financed from German government, also from NDEF, Holland and World Bank and so on. We had 5 types of activities during this time. First, the most obviously is the heart of the power plant, the turbine, which is not so difficult, but difficult enough. So we started with cross-flow turbines, which is very suitable for many rural electrification projects. Then more complicated propeller and Pelton turbines. So we cover everything from design to commissioning. And the next step was to improve the civil structures and somehow standardize it. Then develop the control systems. Also, like earlier, Nigel Swiss was mentioned as a pioneer. Of course, he installed training here with induction generator controllers. And now we updated to electrical, electro-load controllers and digital controllers. Then very important, make productive use of the energy. So during quite some phase, we try to develop these technologies and then use in villages. And last not least, the institutional setup aspects in a hydropower plant. Just introducing a tariff system, management of the plant, collecting systems, and all these things which are very important. So hydropower is a whole package of technology, and what is not mentioned is number 6 is the environment where we are working, like catchment area protection, things like that. Good, that was this development, and just as some kind of a summary or an idea, our statistic shows that we already produced about 1,100 turbines in Indonesia with a rated output of about 50 megawatt within this time. And quite a number of equipment was already exported all over the world, starting from Switzerland to South Africa. You see here the typical development of a technology. So it started very slow, and 2004, the subsidy was removed on the fossil fuel. The conditions for hydropower became better, and then the market was ready to boom or to produce more and more turbines and equipment. Unfortunately, now there is a little bit flattening because photovoltaics and other renewable energies are in many cases also very good. And controllers, a similar picture. We have about 2 main manufacturers in Bandung where I found the data. Renaconsis is about 1040 controllers and all installed 40 megawatt, and PMA and other companies about 700 controllers and about 10 megawatt. So the trainings have quite a long tradition in Indonesia. And when I first came to Indonesia, this was a waterfall I have seen, and I said as a target there must be a power plant. And at the development, there is now a power plant. But this tradition started much earlier, as Lance already mentioned. We had in the 80s, we had a mini hydropower group, which was from ITDG, FACT, Skat, GATE, GIZ, and was some kind of a network like HYCOM working some years. And so many trainings were made in Nepal, Philippines, Switzerland, using university and hydro lab centers like we had. And I think that was a real good input, and we can see that still today. Here you see some trainings in Switzerland, seeing big power plants, small power plants, going in a hydro lab, learning a bit bottom-down engineering. That was 4 weeks, very dense trainings, and I think they had a big effect. So this know-how somehow makes sense to shift it where it's needed. In Europe, the hydropower is developed, it's just rehabilitation and so on, but in Asian, African countries, Latin America, this is some kind of a booming technology and can be very good. So it makes a lot of sense to bring this equipment to Bandung, what we could manage. So we implemented it in Bandung. These are like Pelton Francis turbines, which have been used to develop turbines maybe 50 years ago. So big turbines were based on these model testings. And we have a synchronizing unit, so the ELC can be connected to the grid, and we can study the performance during being grid connected. Then we have a simulation of cross-flow turbine. So the operators can dismantle it, can operate it, change the belts, and somehow study the behavior, also seeing the characteristics. And there is ELC load controller simulation board, so we also have these. So the impact maybe is strengthening the hydropower sector and associations worldwide. Then we have international networking and experience exchange, which I really think is very important. Then we have improving feasibility studies, design of hydropowers, improving operation by operator trainings, and supporting maybe the implementation of hydropower standards, initiating renewable energy introduction and certification on vocational school sector, which I think is also good, supporting expertise to set up national hydropower standards, SNE, and preparing the ground for Renewable Energy Centre within TDC, which happened on the end. So we had about 500 visitors all over the time, from all over the world, visiting this center, and we try to make also offering tailor-made training packages, and about 300 participants from about 25 lenders participated in the workshop and trainings. So here's an example of a hydropower network meeting, the second one. So some of you may know this center already. Another example was this HPNet ELC operational troubleshooting training 2 years ago. So, and yeah, you see, we have seminar rooms, manufacturer can offer some hands-on experience as well. These are some examples of modules we prepared and we can combine. So it's introduction, management of hydropower projects, development, operation, maintenance, site identification and feasibility study, and equipment fabrication trainings. So still, I'm convinced MHP technology is also in many cases a good thing to support rural development. That's the end of my presentation. You can contact me or HYCOM if you like, and yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to promote hydropower, the center, HPNet. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just so everybody notices there, your website is hycom.info. So thank you very much, Gerhard, for describing this history of HYCOM. It's really impressive. I won't say much more, but just to say congratulations on being upgraded to a Renewable Energy Centre and certification body for the Indonesian government. That's a really big deal, I know. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next up,
Yeah, you're welcome.
we have our next speaker, which is Senator Adrian Bani Lasembang. And let me just bring you off of mute. Hi.
Hi, Molly.
Can you hear
Hi.
me? Great.
Yes, loud and clear.
Wonderful. Well, we're so glad you were able to join us. We know there were some technical challenges, so that's a nice surprise. So what I'm going to do is send you through a request to share your screen, and that way we can then see your slides.
Okay.
Okay, and if you just bring that to full screen, I know there's a little delay sometimes. Okay, that's wonderful. And just a very brief intro, since I didn't get to introduce you at the very beginning, but just to mention that the Honorable Adrian Bani Lasembang has became a senator for the national government of Malaysia, representing the state of Sabah, and that you're going to talk to us today about the work of Tony Bung and the role of training centers for community empowerment. So with that, I will turn it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I apologize for my slight delay because I was having some technical problem when I was coming back from my site visit just now. Anyway, I'm very glad to be part of this webinar, and I'd like to share a little bit of experiences Tony Bung, our organization, have to do with community empowerment, and also introduce to you our training center, which is I'll explain a bit later. So first of all, I'd like to introduce our organization. Tony Bung is basically established in 1998. Used to be a youth organization in my community, and we came together to promote renewable energy and other appropriate technologies to various indigenous communities, specifically very remote areas in the Sabah Borneo region. We have been doing a lot of stuff related to micro hydro, photovoltaics, solar thermal, and also looking at various appropriate technologies that might be useful for the communities, like biogas and also biomass. We have been doing this for the last 20 years, mainly to work on empowering the communities in terms of managing their natural resources, and also build the socioeconomy within the communities with the available power. A lot of us discuss about productive end use from energy from this community-based renewable energy systems, and we have been focusing particularly on that. We have been partnering with a lot of other organizations. I'm very glad presentation from Gerhard just now, because we have actually worked together with various players from the micro hydro companies from Bandung, and have provided us a lot of the initial support when we are doing this work. Our main mission and focus is to look at how we can provide access to clean water, electricity, to renewable energy and other sustainable solutions. And we focus on how to integrate projects within the communities, particularly in terms of renewable energy, into sustainable agriculture, watershed management, and so on, so that it can have a sustainable impact over time. And hopefully we can also empower the communities in terms of managing the resources. So here I can just show you some of our activities. We're looking at fabrication of turbines. We also do a lot of supervising in terms of construction of the micro hydro systems, and also how to train the community operators and when we have this system in place. So we run a center called CREATE, a Center for Renewable Energy and Appropriate Technologies. And it was initiated about 7-8 years ago when we had a partnership with Green Empowerment, and we got the initial funding from the National Geographic and the Great Energy Challenge. So from that initial funding that we got, we managed to acquire some funds to develop community-based modules on how to train our technicians on surveying to fabrication and also operation and maintenance. And this is very important because we want to make sure that whatever systems or project that we implement in the communities can be sustained over time, so that they have a certain level of competency in terms of managing and also operating the systems. A lot of the projects that we can see fail because there are lack of empowerment of the communities to manage those systems. So we have been focusing exactly on that, and we have have been establishing community organizing trainings through other partnership with various NGOs in Sabah and in general in Malaysia. Our center is located not far from the city center, from Kota Kinabalu, about 15 minutes drive to center. We have a hostel and a workshop facility where we can fabricate components of turbines, and also have equipment for the trainees that come and train in our center. We provide two types of training. One is just for the operators, which normally we provide one whole week training course on how to maintain and operate the different types of turbines that we install, how to do troubleshooting and so on. And these are mainly dedicated for community operators, every projects that we do. The second type of training is much more long term. It's a 6-month training program. This is intended to provide community technicians and also those who are willing or who want to be developing projects. So we give them training on basics of micro hydro, how to do surveying, the design, and so on, so that when they want to establish a project, they can basically know how to do the proper data collection and making sense of the data to design those particular project, and then they can basically use that to do fundraising to get funding from different donor agencies. We have been trying to do a lot of experimenting on our side, thanks to HPNet, because a few of our staff have had the opportunity to go and have some learning from Sri Lanka, and also went to, I think, Nepal, if I'm not mistaken. And from that on, we can see the different ways of doing things, and those experiences they go bring back, and we also tried our own experimenting on providing this. For example, like some of our guys that went to do training in Janatakshan in Sri Lanka, they are very impressed with how making recycled aluminium from any cans to make turbine casting. So from a lot of watching YouTubes and exchanges, and we managed to basically train few of our guys to be able to do casting and further improve some of those designs that we acquired from the previous exchange program. So now we are also training our local youths, our indigenous youths, to also have the possibility of making these turbine components, and we buy it from them. We create some small enterprise from that, and hopefully we can have sustain certain business, so that even if the the component, there's a lot of also wear and tear in the for example, the Pelton turbine. So maybe down the road they need to change those Pelton wheels. They can basically buy from those guys who can make this. So we have been doing a lot of other testing. Of course, we have been the exchange program. We try and see how we can also share what we have learned from the exchange program, and see whether we can further improve that. We are also looking further because the market for the sites for microhydro is becoming less and less. And also there's a lot of competition within the solar PVs. But we found that there are actually a lot of possibilities in looking at hybrid systems like solar hydro hybrids. So we have been experimenting and conducting different pilot projects on this. We have done at least 7 communities on solar hydro hybrid, and this is to basically power socio-economic centers to encourage also productive end use of energy. We are also looking at how to make the technology of accessible, because if you look at the SDG goal, we want to look at affordable energy systems. So of course we're not trying to cut corners, but we're trying to see what are the different approaches that we can reduce the development cost of any MHP, and we are trying the different ways of producing this locally, and so that it can be run by our local champions. Our main goal now is to reach the last mile and also to empower the youths. Normally, these last mile communities are very remote areas, and they will not have opportunity to get government, projects because they're too far. So we are looking at focusing on remote communities within, especially in the Borneo, the Malaysian Borneo side of the country. We are looking at organizing in situ training. Apart from organizing the trainings in our center, we also go to communities and conduct basic microhydro training, how to do surveying, and also looking at how to involve the communities in terms of decision making and designing the projects. We have been extensively promoting the community-based model, and then we're looking at how to make sure that the community is in the steering wheel or the driving seat of any projects that is being done in the communities. So these are some of just example of why we are working on towards pushing this community-based model. Recently, after my appointment as senator, I have been pushing this to our government, so that this alternative approach can also be used by the government programs, so that communities can have and own their own energy systems in the community. We are looking at a lot of things apart from looking at the technology. We are looking at how to make sure that the community's involvement in every project is been optimized. And from my experience over 20 years, in fact, micro hydro, I can fairly say 80% is actually social engineering, because it involves a lot of community organizing and pre-project planning in the early stage, and the implementation is actually just 20% of it, and another whole uh, batch of resources is needed to help the communities. A lot of handholding, actually, even after the project have been successfully completed. So our approach also to look at how to fund these projects, looking at utilizing conservation funds to basically fund these micro hydro projects. In Malaysia, we are quite a bit difficult to get aid agencies to fund projects, because Malaysia is already considered to be a middle income country, and this is a big challenge for us, because normally we are not eligible to apply for development funds. So in our case, we are looking at using conservation funds, applying for conservation funds to fund this micro hydro project. So that is the financing mechanism that we have been approaching, like payment of ecosystem services, RED, RED Plus, and so on, because we tie the micro hydro projects with watershed conservation. And we want to make sure that the community is committed towards managing those watershed. So it involves a lot more than just technology. They create a lot of other work, like community mapping, and also community engagement in terms of how to draw to finalize the community watershed protocols. The last thing I want to share is how important it is to integrate women's empowerment in the program, because we see that most of our projects is not free. The community is required to pay back certain amount of money or funds to our revolving fund. So one way for them to be able to do this is to organize like socioeconomy centers, and for the income from this center can basically include to pay some of the components to our revolving fund. So these are the kind of things that we also do in our center, to look at what are different approaches on making this accessible to the communities. I've talked about this solar hybrid system, and I think we are still in the testing. The first project that we installed is already about 5 years now, so not that I think that you're going to expect some problems with the batteries soon. So we are looking at how to make sure that the system can be maintained, or how we can get enough money to pay for the new sets of also, we are looking at setting up more microgrid systems by integrating 2 or more micro hydro systems into one renewable energy grid. So we are looking at this approach, and we are actually doing one pilot projects which going to be completed somewhere in June or July this year. So to conclude, the training programs, I think it's very important to increase the pool of competent community technicians, which is very important, to create job opportunities within the communities, and also we have a center to develop locally brewed technologies, and work on other appropriate technology apart from microhydro. We are also looking at how to work on the different appropriate technologies like biogas and how maybe possibility of integrating this into community projects. To have training programs, it opens up the possibility of exchange programs because we have our niche. So this we can be shared within our different partners within the region and so on. And with example, we've already done a lot of this through the HPNet. And I think lastly, it's very important to give the local communities the opportunity to learn and maintain the community-based renewable energy system. So we, without the training programs, it's a bit difficult to do this. So yeah, I think just to conclude, we did got some award for this, just looking at especially on the community-based model and how we conduct community center design. These are some of our partners and sponsors. The last few years, our state government have been also recently getting more involved in making sure that there's opportunity. But again, link with corporate agencies and so on is this way we can do the project more. Okay, so I think that's all. Thank you very much. So I'll be happy to answer if there's any questions. So this is my contact number, and yeah, happy to share if you anything else we can.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Senator Lassenbang. Thank you for sharing that presentation with us. It was particularly notable just, we'll have a proper discussion, but just to mention it, it's very interesting that you mentioned the important role of young people and of women in your presentation, and also the role of the community-based model. And again, to kind of go back to Jade's presentation, the 80% of community organizing, that really stands out to me, the people aspect that comes across in all of your presentations, really. So thank you very much for that. So what we'll do now, just before I go to Lance, so Lance, if you hold on just a second, I'm going to do a couple of quick audience polls, just to know a little bit about our audience and also just to see what they are thinking about in relation to these topics. So let me just launch that poll. So if everybody, if you don't mind going and voting and letting us know, what type of stakeholder do you represent? Are you working maybe for a nonprofit or an NGO? Are you working for the private sector? Maybe you're actually working for the government or a funding agency. Perhaps you're a researcher. Or maybe you're working as part of a network of perhaps of energy practitioners, as we all know. So thanks a lot for voting, everybody. I'm not sure, has everybody voted? I'll give you just a couple more seconds. And just a little reminder here as well to keep sending in your questions. I see we've gotten quite a few. Do keep sending those in, and we're going to circle back around to those in the Q&A session coming up in just a moment. Just after Lance's discussant presentation. And I also just wanted to mention to you all that behind the scenes, now maybe she'll be a bit embarrassed that I'm saying this, but behind the scenes there is a woman named Dipti Vagela, who is the coordinator of HPNet, and who is working very much on these issues. She's really been, she along with Lance have really been the driving force for getting the whole webinar together today. So I did just want to acknowledge that. And I think everybody has voted now. So let me go ahead and share those poll results with you, okay? So I'm going to share that. Okay, so we see we've got about 19% working for NGOs, about 34% in the private sector, 16% in funding agencies, and 31% who are researchers. And I know we have 0% for networks, but I think it's probably because people couldn't choose both options, because I know we have quite a lot of network representatives here today. So, okay, what I'm going to do is another very, very quick poll, and this is just about micro hydropower. So let me launch that for you. So what interests you most about micro hydropower? Is that building local skills? Is it maybe technology advancement? policy and financing for microhydro, like we were just hearing about, or maybe also the environmental benefits and watershed protection. So let me just let you guys go ahead and vote on that. Okay, so I think most people have voted. Let me share that with you guys so that you can see see what all of you think is important when it comes to micro hydropower. Okay, so we have 24% of you saying building local skills, 31% technology advancement, policy and financing also at 31%, and environmental benefits and watershed protection at 14%. But that's very interesting because we were just hearing in the presentations how important building local skills is for micro hydropower. So that's interesting. So maybe we'll have a little think about that and come back to that in the Q&A. Okay, so let me go over to back over to Lance, who's going to be our discussant. Hi, Lance. Are you there on the line?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Hi, Lance. So I wanted you to let us help us connect up all of these presentations that we've heard. They're all in different countries doing slightly different things, but they're all training centers. So if you can help the audience kind of link up some of these important points that we've been hearing and bring out some of the things that you guys in HPNet find especially important.
Yeah, sure, of course. Are the slides showing?
Not yet. Let's see. Did you have already accepted the link that I sent there? Sometimes it gets minimized.
Not yet.
Okay, let me just bring that back to myself for 1 second, and then what I will do is make you the presenter again. It should come through to you now.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Great.
Okay, so really I would like to thank everyone, the audience, for being with us to listen, and the speakers particularly for sharing their experiences. So as I see it, all three centers were really able to develop their facilities and develop their curriculum to cater perfectly to the needs of their own localities. Also for Malaysia, we have a special focus on the indigenous movement for all types of renewable energy. So the transition from imported to indigenous technology was very emphasized, and because of the center, we have longer lived projects and the ability to rehabilitate projects that have gone through much wear and tear. And similarly with the Philippines, there's the emphasis on being able to locally manufacture, which is very important since this drives down the cost of the community-based renewable energy systems, and this in turn increases the sustainability of the project. So we also have training for the multi-actors. Being able to engage with the local government units in the Philippines especially is an important thing, since a lot of projects are dictated by the policies of the government. And we have design and fabrication of productive end-use machinery, which likewise increases the economic sustainability of a project by increasing the income of the communities and improving their ability to engage in productive ventures. So with HYCOM, we have a very, very important emphasis on their capability and their being a pioneer in the region for knowledge transfer. So HYCOM has been a very instrumental entity in disseminating the technology for micro hydro, and other renewable energy systems now to a lot of other countries and to other partners. So I'm also very I'd also like to congratulate HYCOM for being for upgrading themselves to the new center for with a certification from the government. No? And also, I'd like to really also reiterate on the social aspect of micro hydropower projects. Now, I really relate to what Senator Bonnie said about micro hydropower projects, renewable energy projects, community-based projects, really being 80% social engineering. And this is something that I have also experienced in my I've seen in my humble experience. So the common thrust with all of the centers really is to develop the right competencies so that local actors, local communities are able to independently manage or develop their projects, and all in harmony with the environment, all in a sustainable manner. And another one is to be able to deploy the appropriate technologies for increased community empowerment. And there's also the underlying emphasis, no, in all of this just needing or just having to be sustained effort. You know, knowledge transfer is not a one-shot deal, and it has to be sustained, you know, through generations. And yeah, so I hope this has really provided an avenue not only for the audience to learn about our speakers, but also for our speakers to learn from each other's experiences. And hopefully, this will lead to deeper collaborations. So maybe we also have some people in the audience who are in organizations who are planning to set up their own centers. And we hope this also inspires you because one example of HPNet synergizing practitioners is with an organization in Mindanao, Philippines, with Yamog Renewable Energy Incorporated. It's a nonprofit. So through HPNet, Yamog is currently taking inspiration from these three centers and many others in currently setting up its Renewable and Sustainable Energy Technology Center, which will focus on improving and reinforcing their work in Mindanao. So we hope for the best. We hope the best for them. So that's all from me, Ms. Molly. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Lance. Thank you for all of those points and kind of bringing everything together for us here just before we go into the Q&A session. So we do have some great audience questions here. We have a couple of questions also just from our side that we had already thought about. So we will try to do a little bit of both of those in the time remaining, if that's okay for everybody. So let me start first by going back to Jade. Hi, Jade. Are you there on the line? Hi, Jade.
Yes.
So,
here.
Hi, great. So I just wanted to ask a question to you. I wanted to ask a little bit about, how did CBOT actually decide to transition from imported technology to micro hydro turbines that are actually built in your own center? How did you decide to make that transition, and also how did that go for you? Was it a challenging transition?
Yeah. Well, CBOT decided to manufacture local turbine. This was a decision made in the international training held in Cebu, Philippines in 1995, hosted by ITDG and CBOT. But before the training, CBOT already fabricated the first cross-flow turbine in 1994 and installed of one of the sites in 1994. And yeah, and now it was the oldest micro hydro in the Philippines. And Sibat also saw the problems in importation such as high cost and rigorous procedures in importation. And the cost is high. And also the important thing is we can easily transfer the knowledge to local technician and troubleshoot the unit if there's a problem. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thanks, Jade. So moving right along, let me go to Gerhard next. Hi, Gerhard, are you
Yeah.
there?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Great. So I want to ask you, do you think micro hydro training centers should focus on all renewable energy technologies? I know you mentioned that you guys have recently been upgraded to a renewable energy center. Or do you think there's also still a need for technology specific centers?
Yeah, I think the combination is very good. Yeah, seeing the complexity of a village setup and the specialty like hydropower, especially if it's not the big output, maybe you need very specific know-how to design a 2 megawatt Francis turbine. Of course, you have to go into it. Yeah. But the hydropower has so many aspects also, which are the same for other energies. Like a village setup for a solar panel is not so different than from another one if you have to get the tariffs and so on. And hydropower also has the strength of connecting with the environment. So I think some parts are like there are manufacturers, they manufacture reliable equipment. That is of course one part of it. But the hydropower is more complex. And the statement that maybe 80% is social engineering, yeah, okay, I agree to that. But if the 20% are not good, then the 80% are bigger. That means we still have to focus on the technical things, but engineers also can think more for other technologies as well and see and decide what can be developed. I'm quite thinking it's the right way to focus on other technologies as well. I can tell you, when I was starting 40 years ago, I made a study of all renewable energies available at that time. And my conclusion was hydropower is the most sophisticated and the most worth it at that time. But then 1 watt peak was $100. Now it's 0.1. So it has really changed. I think that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Gerhard. Thank you.
Yeah.
So next, let me go to Senator Bani. Here we go. Hi, are you there on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. So the question that I wanted to ask you is especially about indigenous practitioners of microhydro and what role you see them playing in increasing Sabah's electrification rate.
Yeah, it is. I think their role is very important. In particular, there are so many very hard to reach areas where indigenous peoples are living, and normally the government's electrification deals so much at the national grid expansion and so on, which will take many years, or almost some of these areas are very remote that is impossible, or it's not economical to bring this national grid to the villages. So I think the role of the off-grid mini grids system is very important in order for us to have this system to electrify these remote areas. So that's why the indigenous technician has to be trained in order for us to reduce the reliance of technician outside of the remote areas, so that at least they can have the competency to do basic troubleshooting and so on. Of course, the more technical competency needs to be also available locally, maybe in the state, when there's more complicated issues that will they cannot be addressed by the local technicians. So I mean, of course, we are not saying that we are 100% totally relying on the indigenous technicians, but there are certain level of competency and skills they need to have before if there's a more complicated issue on occurring on the systems, at least the state level has somebody who can basically help on the troubleshooting and maybe rectify those problems.
Well, and while I have you here, and while we're talking about that, we actually had an audience question that was. Let me just read that to you, and I think it's applicable to yourself and to Jade and Gerhard. So, when developing technical training programs in rural areas, how do you mitigate the risk that the trained personnel do not move away from rural areas and go to the wealthier urban centers? I know this has been a challenge for a number of people who have done these trainings in other situations, but for yourselves, you've been going for so long, you're so experienced. How is it that you find that people remain there and continue to use their skills to serve their communities?
I think the most important part is we have to create some job opportunities for this trained technician. In our case, they are actually paid monthly salary to operate this system, and those is actually collected from the communities, from the energy sales or the collection tariff that was set by the communities. That's one possible approach. The second thing is to create built-in in the project. When we develop this project, we have to build in a certain cottage industry in the community, so that at least when you commission this system, we have something that the community can increase or do something like run a small workshop, welding and so on. So apart from just looking at after the machine, they can also do lots things by having this opportunity. They have electricity, they can run welding sets, and they can do fabrication of many agricultural tools, and so we don't waste the skills that we have in the community after we train these technicians. At least they can create their own jobs on this. Even though the number of jobs we can create is quite limited, but if we can develop larger systems, then this, I think, is a real game changer.
Great. Well, what I'm going to do next is go to Jade and ask her the same question. Thank you for explaining that and telling especially about the fact that they're paid a monthly salary. I think that's very interesting. So Jade, hi, are you there on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that same question. How do you guys cope with that, and how have you ensured kind of continuity within your organization?
Well, as what Sergio had said a while ago, we create job opportunity to the community. So we also ensure that five operators from the community will undergo to the training, so that in case that one of them will go to find another job in the city, then there's another 4 left to do the operation of the system. And also we don't experience any problem on that, because until now the operators that we train in the center is still there.
Thank you, Jade. And so next, I wanted to go to Gerhard. Gerhard, we have an audience question. I mean, you're welcome to answer that question as well if you like. Would you like to answer that one, or would you like me to ask you a different one?
Oh, the one which, okay, I can somehow confirm what they said. Of course, you cannot avoid that good people go to town. And the best thing is to make an incentive for them to stay. and giving job opportunity, like even maybe they need a local electrician, so this guy can make the house wiring, maybe having a small shop of things, electrical appliances or whatsoever. So that is a creativity problem. But often they go, and if there is no redundancy in the training, of course, the next one is not properly trained. What we propose, but cannot succeed, is that if it's government project, that there's a regular retraining for new operators to upgrade, so bring them together, which actually did not really happen. When we set up HYCOM, we thought, okay, that could be a market, but it's very hard to get the financing. Sometimes operators are trained from the ministry and replacements as well. But definitely that's an issue. So even an operator every 2-3 years could go to an experience exchange and so on, and such a training center would be very good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Gerhard. So now I'd like to go back to Lance. Hi, Lance, are you there?
Yes, Miss Molly, I'm here.
Hi. So what I wanted to ask you is also, since this is the HPNet webinar, and all of the people speaking today, I believe, are members of the HPNet network. So I wanted to understand a little bit about HPNet's work, and especially, for example, how do you plan to support local training centers for micro and mini hydro going forward? What else needs to be done?
Yes, that's a very good question. So currently, for us in HPNet, we are actively helping training centers to advance their work by connecting them to interested individuals and organizations, entities who want or who could benefit from the services that they provide. And likewise, we help centers to access the needed support so that they can upgrade or improve their facilities. So, for example, recently just here, through the initiative of our network manager, Ms. Dipti, we were able to organize a roundtable in Myanmar that was able to connect local MHP practitioners with various development partners and social impact investors and even local banks who could provide the financing. And as I mentioned a while ago, similarly, we are also helping other development-oriented organizations who are just who are just beginning to set up their own centers to access the required knowledge, resources, and expertise. So, moreover, it would be very nice as well. It would be great if HPNet could conduct the similar trainings as was done in the 90s with our member centers now. It is something that we are also working on. But for this, we would need funding. But more than that, we would need stakeholders, especially donors, to understand that the sustainability of mini grids, micro hydropower systems are really truly heavily dependent on the capacities of local people on the ground. So yes, that's our strategies. Those are our strategies for HPNet. Hello.
Sorry, Lance. Sorry, I had myself on mute there.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
But yeah, no, thank you very much for closing on those very important points, because it circles back to all three presentations, and that really the emphasis, not just on technology, but on the people behind the technology. That's something that, at least for me, came across very strongly today. And if it's possible, could we go back to the slide about HPNet's upcoming webinars? I just want to remind the audience of when the next one will be and what the topic will be. So the next one is going to be in June, and that is going to be mini-grid sustainability, transitioning to enterprise-based micro hydropower. So some of these kind of hints that I think you already heard in the presentations today about how important it is to have productive uses and to have local income and jobs and this sort of thing. I think we'll probably be able to go even more into depth on that in June. So in just a few months, we'll be excited to bring that next one in the series to you. And of course, webinars 3 and 4 will be coming up in the autumn and the winter of 2019. And so I want to thank all of our presenters for being here with us today. I want to say a very big thank you as well to both of the sponsors of the webinar. That's visions.net, and I've put that in the comments, and also energypedia.info. So thank you both for supporting this very, very compelling webinar today with all of these experts from across Southeast Asia. So thank you, Ms. Jade, for being with us here today. Thank you also, Mr. Gerhard, Senator Lassenbang. Thank you for also to Lans Habla and to Dipti Vagela for organizing it. It's been a really excellent experience for me, and I hope for the audience as well. So we'll look forward to welcoming you to another webinar in the future. Lance, would you like to say any closing words?
Yes. One last message for all. Please stay tuned. Watch out for our newsletter. We will be releasing it to all subscribers at the end of March. So there you will be able to see all the updates regarding the network and all the work that has been done so far in the year. And of course, our plans for the rest of the year. So thank you all.
Well, that's excellent. And I've just dropped that into the chat. So that's hpnet.org. Subscribe. You just scroll down to the very bottom and you'll be able to just pop in your email address and subscribe to their list and make sure that you get the updates on all the future webinars. And of course, it's there on the slide as well. So, so in any case, I'm multitasking here. So thank you for everyone for being here with us today. It's been a real pleasure to have you all here with us. I just take everyone off of mute just in case you want to say a few words or say thank you. But thank you for all being here today. It was really a pleasure to hear about your experiences.
Thank you, Molly. It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody. So it's amazing how you can make webinars over the world not knowing where people are.
Okay, well, thank you everybody. We'll look forward to the next one in June. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you.